This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Monday evening via Zencaster is my friend Michael Lieboff. And Mike, we are doing our first episode of 2025. The Islanders are 2 games into the new year. They have 1 win and 1 loss. And, you could reasonably say, I think, that they played pretty well in both games. But like they have all season, in one game, they just couldn't score. In the other game, they scored enough to win in overtime, a pretty exciting game. And I don't know. I still am feeling about this team the way I felt at the end of 2024, which is they are deficient in many areas. They are most likely not a playoff team, despite the excitement of Sunday's win over the Bruins. Where are you at with the New York Islanders to start 2025?
I am in the same spot, basically, as I've been since the Islanders blew that lead to Utah Hockey Club on night 1 of the season. Right. And I'll give you the word that came to my mind. I've never exclaimed this word before, because it's when I tell you what it is, you're going to be like, yeah, well, if I heard someone say after their sports team lost, I am blank, you'd probably call the cops or something. But when they lost to the Toronto Maple Leafs in that game at UBS Arena, like you said, in which they played well, but the 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025 Islanders showed up in that game at the very end. You're waiting for them to show up, and they did via a Adam Pelech ill-advised penalty 200 feet from his own goal. Yep. That's not where Adam Pelech is supposed to be at any point during the game, really, especially not with 3 minutes left in a game.
Right.
And then he trips Philippe Myers. We'll go into it later, the specifics, but after they took that penalty, and we all knew what was coming next, there was no way the Islanders were going to kill that penalty off. It was just about what bounce is going to happen where this ends up in the back of the net. It was a bounce off the end boards to Bobby McMahon, who scores to give the Maple Leafs the win. I went to bed, or I turned off the TV, and I was alone in my living room with Elvis, my dog, and I looked at him because I had nobody else in there with me but him and the ghosts of Islander season pass, and I said, I am so goddamn agitated. That's all it is. This team is just agitating me. They agitate us, and I realized, that's the word I've been looking for all season. It's because when you think of someone who is agitated, they're not fun to be around. They're kind of squirmy.
Yeah.
skin crawling, cringy, whatever. Like
Right.
you don't want to be around an agitated person
Yeah.
ever. And you don't want to be around an agitated person who's agitated because of something as silly as a sports team.
Mm.
So when the next time I saw Emily the next morning, we've obviously got the baby, so we barely see one another in the house. We're just it's tag team. You're in, I'm in kind of situation. And she could tell just by like the look on my face that the Islanders had lost the night before. And that's a sign of an agitated person.
Yeah.
Right? Like she could just tell. And so they're not making me mad anymore. We're now into the point where I've gone into a different realm of emotions, and I'm now an agitated. And that is worrying because I think you can kind of pull somebody back from mad. You can probably pull somebody back from sports depressed or sports despondent. You win a couple games. But when you're agitated, it's a little different because you're not angry or anything. They're just annoying you.
Yeah.
And when someone is or something is annoying you, it takes a lot of effort. Think about maybe someone you grew up with that was just so annoying to be around. You didn't jive at all. How much work that person or that thing that you didn't enjoy that agitated you would have to do to get you to be like, oh no, I'm actually enjoying being around this person or this thing now that used to agitate me, used to drive me up a wall. So the Islanders are one win into bringing me back. They've got a lot more work to do, but no, I think that the word I've been looking for all season, it felt like a kind of a weird weight came off my shoulders when I finally figured it out that I'm just agitated, and you just, that's not what it's just not normal. Like sports teams would usually take you down like one of different kind of similar emotions: happy, sad, mad, angry, like I said, despondent, hopeless. When you're getting into agitated, you're into a different realm, and this team has found a way to drag us into this shadowy land of agitation.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, another way to put it, you're just upset. Like you're just constantly upset, right? It's like, that's not fun. It's not joyful. It's not even mad. Like you said, you're just upset. And it's just, it's almost like if you've ever had to do a thing, like maybe it could be a work related thing, or maybe you're like, you have to take a trip somewhere that maybe you don't want to go. And it's like, it's coming. So the week leading up to that thing, you're just not yourself, right? Like you're preoccupied, you're worried, you're maybe not sleeping right. You're thinking about things. People are like, you're right. Yeah. I'm thinking about a thing I got to do this weekend. Oh, that's like, that's almost what it's like.
Yes,
but
exactly.
It's a hockey team. Like we're supposed to be having fun with this. That's just not been, and that's what made Sunday. We're going to talk a lot about Sunday's game, but like Sunday's game was a fun game. Like that was the kind of game that in a normal season you would enjoy, right? Back and forth. Yeah, they blew a lead, but they came back to win it. Bo Horvat on a breakaway in overtime. Like that was awesome, right? It was fun. It was in Boston. It was cool, but I didn't have any fun during that game. Like, I thought about in another context, in another season, this game would be fun, but not this one, not this season, not this context. Yeah.
Because you're agitated,
right?
Because
exactly.
because you're preoccupied with thoughts of the Islanders' season. Like you're like, oh, I'd love to be in. There was probably a moment, because this happened to me, that happened to you and happened to everyone listening to this. Maybe when Anders Lee scored to make it 4-2 in that third period, you probably were like, yeah, and then caught yourself and said, oh no, I can't get excited about this. Not only because I know that there's too much time, absolutely going to cough up this lead, but also because they don't deserve it. Like they don't deserve it. If you want to get excited, go on this go do what the Montreal goddamn Canadiens are doing. Win 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about letting go of this, agitation and enjoying enjoyable moments. And that's so sad to say, right? You're an Islander fan? What does that mean? Oh, it means I can't enjoy enjoyable moments.
Right.
That is where we're at with this team. And when you look back on the season, and if you just bullet point it out, as all the kind of twists and turns that the year has taken, all the way to I couldn't even enjoy Steve Simmons asking Patrick Waugh I don't know. We got to get the clip and put it in there.
Can I take you back about 20 years? You were about the only Canadian player, I think, said no to Team Canada for an Olympics going back to 2000.
And then what was the question?
I just wanted to know why at that time.
It was my last year of my career, and I just wanted to spend time with my family. But I don't think it's part of tonight's game. You're welcome.
I couldn't even enjoy that. Enjoy that. That is a tailor-made moment for you and me and the people who listen to the show, to listen to Steve Simmons 20 years later, after the Islanders played Toronto in Toronto, ask Patrick Roy why he didn't. He said, "You're the only player to ever turn down Team Canada. Why did you do that?" And I if in a better season, if I was in a less agitated mood, I probably would have texted you and be like, we need to do an entire podcast on this 18 seconds of hockey media.
Right.
Because it shot up the list to one of my favorite moments of any season ever. But it was hard to enjoy because they lost that game, and that was their a loss that sent them 4 games below 500, 3 games below 500. I couldn't even enjoy that. So that's what being an Islander fan is. Even the moments that are tailor-made for you. You know, it almost think about it as if you're at Nassau Coliseum and the t-shirt gun comes out and they shoot a t-shirt directly to you and you catch it and you're like, oh yeah, I caught one of the t-shirts, and then you realize, oh, I'm gonna bring home this t-shirt that's always gonna remind me of this season. Like that's where we're at here. I can't enjoy anything, even something that would a free t-shirt right now. I would be like,
it's not. It has not been enjoyable, and like you said, it's going to take a lot more than just one fun game in Boston to change that. And if you're listening to what Mike just said, and you're like, wait, the Canadians have won 5 out of 6 games. Well, guess what? We're going to get into that later on in this episode too. Not so much the Canadians, but the fact that I didn't know that either. And that is part of the way hockey media works in this day and age. But let's talk about the Islanders games. Actually, first, let me remind you that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Membership gets you ad-free episodes, plus bonus podcasts, written posts, and a whole lot more. Or you can just join for free and get our weekly release calendar and any announcements. So sign up today at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. We got a ton of stuff coming out in the next couple of days. So I'll tell you all about that in a little bit. Okay, let's talk about these games real quick. And we don't need to talk too much, I think, about the 2 games that preceded the game against the Bruins. They were both losses, straddling the new year, and they were both to the Maple Leafs. So we had a 3-1 loss in Toronto on New Year's Eve. The most exciting part of this was, again, Steve Simmons asking Patrick Roy a completely ridiculous question at the end of the game. But I'm not even going to get into it. My notes here were a waste of time on New Year's Eve. Like, it's just, this team had no pushback, no life, no nothing. They looked like they just didn't want to be there and go home. John Tavares, of course, gets an empty net goal on a power play to seal it, and that was it. Then they start the season, or start the year, I should say, with another game against the Leafs, this one at UBS Arena, this time on ESPN, and the performance was a lot better. Absolutely 100%. But they still lost 2-1. You mentioned before, Bobby McMahon scores late after an Adam Pelech penalty to seal it. They had a bunch of chances late, but the Leafs got a lot of saves from Joseph Woll and a lot of blocks. And so credit to them. Ilya Sorokin was good in that game, but and again, the Islanders played well, but they just had no offense to speak of. And it was really unfortunate. Isaiah George got hurt in that game. Max Domi brought his elbow up as they both went into the corner. George is still hurt. He missed the Bruins game we're going to talk about in a minute. But I think if you've been following along this season and been following along with the Islanders over the last season plus, these 2 games were sort of like, I don't even know how to put it, just the final air coming out of the balloon at the end of the party, right? Like, this is just 2 losses. Yes, one's on 2024, one's in 2025, but ultimately this kind of reinforces what you think this team is. They're even when they play well, they don't have the firepower to score. Matt Barzal and Anthony Duclair are both back from injury now. Both have accumulated, I think, exactly 0 points. That Leafs game, they were both. Barzal was all over the place, but he couldn't score. And so, this is where they're at now. They're not too far out of the playoffs mathematically, but realistically, this team just has so many holes that even when they play well, they just can't get anything into the net, even against, the Leafs, who have been playing well this season. They've been playing well defensively, believe it or not, this season. But you would think that, the Islanders could have put something together. But even just a 2-1 loss, which again, in a normal season would be like, hey, what are you going to do? You lost 2-1, just is not normal. So taking these two games together, the two losses to the Leafs, maybe we even said, I mean, I'm not even like that mad that it was against the Leafs, because, normally that would be the worst possible thing. But here it's just sort of like a big sigh, basically.
That's the season, right? Like it's irrelevant. Like you can't get, that's a game that if the Islanders are even 6 points better than they are right now, you're excited for. You're like, oh, the Leafs, I hate these guys.
You want to get up for the big rivalry, the animus. Yeah.
Throw my batteries, get my batteries in my, into UVS Arena so I can chuck them. Right. Not even at the guy we drafted before, Victor Hedman, but turn around and look at the press box and chuck them at those guys.
Right.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like deflating is the right word. And it's hard to be deflated when you're not inflated at all.
Right.
So it really was just like the last gasp of helium coming out of the 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025 Islanders party that we've all been stuck in for forever here. So I didn't enjoy second of really any of those games, either one of them, watching it. Like I said, I think the highlight was the Steve Simmons master stroke at the end of the game. I barely even remember the New Year's Eve game.
It wasn't a lot to remember.
Yeah, and I also think it's a function of where we're at as a fan base. I think most people like, you're not. This isn't usually when Islander fans, especially, if you're an Islander fan, in all likelihood you're a diehard. That's just how this fan base is. It's a small but very committed, passionate fan base. We live and die, whether it's Game 7 or of 82 or Game 7 of the playoffs. We're gonna white knuckle through these games together. And I think when you're having the type of season the Islanders are, that you lose that, so you're really keeping one eye on the game and one eye on the rest of your life, which is obviously a lot healthier. But it's just not who we are as a fan base. And that's how I felt about the game too. It almost felt like the Islanders were doing the same thing. Like, we're here just to kind of make up the numbers. And if we get the bounces, we'll get out of here and be okay and win and go home. If not, hey, we got the New Year's Eve party after this, and no sweat off our backs because we're all really rich dudes on Long Island, so it's great. And then the game at home to the Leafs. So wait, that was the game that George got hurt at, right? What was
it? Was the home game?
That was the home game, right? So that's the one I want to get into a little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, that game. First of all, I don't. It sounds weird to say. I don't think it was like an egregious missed call on the elbow at all. Like that stuff happens. The ref has a millisecond to make up his mind. I'm not mad that they missed the call. It was unlucky for the Islanders. I think that it probably gets called if it's the other way. Maybe the most surprising part is like it was Max Domi, so the ref can at least comprehend who's doing it and knowing this guy doesn't really deserve the benefit of the doubt here. So
he ended up getting suspended for another hit on somebody today. Fined for another hit on somebody today. So
elbow
it was funny.
It was weird. He was doing this weird elbow thing. But of course, and I wouldn't have been mad about it at all, but it leads to a goal. And then you'd expect some sort of response from the Islanders.
Right.
And I gotta say, we're in episode 314 of this podcast. I don't know if maybe once in our entire existence as a show, we've probably asked somebody to go grab somebody by like the collar and go punch them in the face. Maybe it was probably Eric Bolton or something, right? We were where we like go do something about it. But and I'm not even saying I wanted that, but there should have been something more tangible from the Islanders after that. Like, this is a rookie player. It's Max Domi. So it wasn't like it wasn't a situation where, I don't know, like name a wasn't a situation where Hudson Fasching did that to someone, right? This is a guy with a reputation that everyone's played against in numerous times. It's a team that your fan base really hates. You know it. There should have been more of a tangible pushback. I credit Scott Mayfield. It looked like was trying to get Domi off his game, and Domi ended up taking a penalty a little bit while later. The Islanders did not score on that power play, which is crazy because they seem to always score in power plays. And then the game, it never really got out. It didn't get out of hand, but it looked like everybody in that building, whether they were playing in the game, watching the game, coaching the game, covering the game, everyone kind of knew that, hey, this game's going to end 2-1 Maple Leafs in regulation. It's just a matter of who's gonna make the boneheaded play. And as I said at the top, Adam Pelech being 200 feet away from his goal after he had just hit the crossbar right before that. Yes. I think. So I know that's why he was down there. But still, just an unbelievably 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025 Islanders moment for Adam Pelech, the guy who you'd probably say his game is built around not making that play. He's supposed to be a poised, polished, kind of just safe player that you can trust to not do that. And over the past few seasons, he's kind of moved away from that reputation. I still think he's a quality player, but you can't do that. And the Islanders then end that game having allowed 15 power play goals on their last 31 times shorthanded, in addition to being 0 for their last 20 on the power play. So I think you put those two numbers together. That means when the Islanders when it's a 5v4 situation in any direction, special team situation in any direction, the Islanders are their opponents are 35 for 61, something like that. 51, 35 for 51. Like is how it was. And you left that game. Now the Islanders are 4 games below NHL 500. The scoreboard was pretty kind to them over the weekend, but you don't know that as that game ends. And that was it for everybody. I think everybody, even the most optimistic of Islander fans, were thinking like there's just no coming back from this season. I saw a lot of people going right into here's how we got to rebuild this team. Let's copy the Capitals' homework, all that kind of stuff. And I don't blame a single person for doing that. And then but what was really frustrating was that after the game, and like we said, the Islanders did play well. And Patrick Waugh, I thought his quote was actually of all the hey, we played well tonight but lost situations, this was probably the one that I liked the most, where he said, I've got nothing to back this up, but we're playing good hockey right now. But my problem is that what I just said, right? 0 for 20 on the power play, 15 for 31 on the penalty kill. A lot of different players struggling, and there's just no pressure from anybody to be like, well, something's got to change, right? Like nobody says it in the locker room. Nobody says it. Anyone who, none of the players are saying it. None of the guys who are wearing suit and tie behind the players are saying it. The only ones who are saying it is the fan base, and it feels so. You feel like you're in an insane asylum, and you're just with the other inmates talking like, oh, we gotta trade Nelson. We got to do this. We got to do that. And things only got worse the next day because this, as you call it, the as the Canucks turn. Yeah. This saga keeps on unfolding between JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, and all of a sudden, there's 100 different, clickbaity type of things where it's, well, should we do this? What if the Islanders trade Dobson? I hear the Canucks really want this player, and losing has consequences. So all of a sudden, your Islander time of your day, of your life, isn't devoted to normal Islander things like wins and losses, different things that it should be focused on. It's instead focused on these weird pipe dream situations where, oh well, the Canucks, maybe we can we can just, when they're flying into Montreal, we can just show up at the airport and snatch Elias Pettersson and we'll just leave Pierre Engvall at their doorstep. And you know, it's a squatter's rights to Elias Pettersson once you get him over the border. But that's what happens when your team is down like this, right? Like you're going to end up getting the media cycle kind of just gets you into this turbine, and you're just cycling around. And the next thing you know, you're talking about the Islanders acquiring JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, and that's where the season has gone, right? Like if on October 1st, if I told you that on January 6th or whatever it was, January 3rd, we'd be talking about the Islanders trading for Elias Pettersson, be like, what the hell is going on, right? But that's where we are, and that's because losing has consequences, and playing poorly, despite what the Islanders try to tell us, has consequences. And they're not all that much fun, because it's kind of just wasted breath. Like, well, I don't want to. Nobody knew that the Islanders were going to trade for Bo Horvat, right? Like these things kind of just pop up with the way that this team's run. Nobody knew that the Islanders were going to trade for Ryan Smith when they traded for him. Right. But right now we're dealing. I'm like swatting away all these potential conversations, because I'm like, I don't want to go down this road where I'm talking about them trading a 6-for-1 trade for Elias Pettersson. That's not going to happen. Like I just want to focus on the team, and we can't even do that because they keep losing.
Yeah. Well, and they're losing, like you said, in ways that teams generally don't lose. Today's January 6th, obviously. You know, their last game was yesterday, January 5th. You're hearing this on January 7th, and they have 11 power play goals for the season. 11. I think the Penguins had 11 power play goals in November, and the Penguins aren't even that good. Like, you know, that's a mediocre team. Like, yeah, they're in the playoff spot or close to whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, my point is that there's 11 power play goals this team has scored. And according to Hockey Reference, where I'm at right now, they've had 100 power play opportunities. So they are at 11%. Like, that's ludicrous. And obviously, as you know, their penalty killing percentage is at a robust 63.95%. Let's give it 64%. Wow, great. Like, and so at home, they're even worse. Like you just said.
As Butchie says, you got to have it. You got to want to be over 100% when you combine the power play and the penalty kill. Right. The Islanders are at 75.
75. Right. 75. And so they're losing in ways that normal teams don't lose. They're losing in infuriating ways. And the game against the Leafs, the home game against the Leafs, was the perfect example, because like you said off the top, when Adam Pelech took that penalty, and there wasn't a lot of penalties. I don't think there was really anything before. Maybe each team had like one power play before that or something like that. Maybe none. But when Adam Pelech took that penalty with whatever it was 3 or 4 minutes to go in the game, you knew what was coming. You knew, well, this team is good for at least one power play goal against every single game, particularly at home. Guess what's coming? And then it happened. And then they lost. And it's like they lose in infuriating ways. They win in ways that are not joy inducing. We talked about, you know, the feel bad wins. Like that's what this team traffics in. That, you know, of their 15 wins, I think, you know, 10 of them we just determined whatever were feel bad or maybe not so great wins. And so it's just been a real slog. And it's just they're doing it in ways that almost make you wonder what is even the point. And the fact that nobody seems to be in a rush to fix any of this is just mind-boggling. Like, I just don't understand how these guys look at and Patrick Waugh was saying like, oh, I think it's confidence is a big thing about the, you know, the penalty kill or whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, when you're this bad, how are you supposed to be confident? Like, what are you supposed to tell yourself?
Right.
Oh yeah, we know what we're doing.
Season in a row.
Right. Like, so it just hasn't been a lot of fun. I did notice, by the way, this was actually just before that game against the Leafs, that people around the league are starting to notice. Travis Yost wrote a thing about how special teams are killing the Islanders. Someplace else I saw somebody, you know, wrote that like, you know, why are the Islanders special teams so awful? I mean, this is like, we're working on like a historic level here. Obviously we know guys like Art Staple and you know, Ethan Sears and Andrew Gross and Stephen Rosser, they all know, but like, I think word is finally getting out to the rest of the league. Holy shit. These guys are really, really, really bad at both penalty killing and power play, and mixed games like, you know, whatever was the Thursday's game against the Leafs, really hard to watch. It was an ESPN game, but the call was pretty good. I thought it was with Schusen. It was with Schusen and Weeks, right?
Yeah.
And it was all right.
That's why. Yeah, it was probably the best Islanders play-by-play call
Yeah.
or broadcast on ESPN ever, and it was because there was a certain combination. Well, only one of the two dynamic duo was in the booth. So that was, yeah, it wasn't bad actually. I was gonna say that the not only did we all know what was coming after that penalty, but so did Adam Pelech. Like, you saw the look on his face, and that's what's so frustrating. We talked about last week and how there's this weird phenomenon where it looks like the Islanders they just don't understand the concept of wins and losses and how you're supposed to win. You're try to win the game, and that's the first thing that came to my mind after that play, because that's a super avoidable play,
right?
For any team in the league. But when you're on a team like the Islanders, where every point is crucial, you're in the death throes of regulation, you got to get that point. And secondly, you're on the Islanders, so you've already been through. Adam Pelech's been on the bench or been in the press box as he was hurt. Watched the Islanders lose this game a million times this season because somebody makes a mistake like that. Know that, okay, every time you step over the ice, 5 minutes left, tied game, got to get a point here at least, get this game to overtime or try to find a way to eke out a win. That means no mistakes, and you go on the ice, hit the crossbar, and then trip Philippe Myers, a guy who's been in the AHL more than the NHL for, like, this
Again,
wasn't
200 feet from your own
200
net.
feet. Yeah, just say this wasn't Austin Matthews coming down on a breakaway and Adam Pelech two-handing him across the wrist to make sure that the Islanders, play the percentages. This was taking something that probably a play that has 0.18% chance of ending up in a goal, and turning it into, as we say, 35%, because that's what teams are cooking at against the Islanders on the power play, and 50% ish of late and at home. So yeah, it was that was a real kick in the nether regions, and you didn't even feel it because you've been kicked there so many times this season. You're just like, oh, this is all you got? Adam Pelech tripping Philippe Myers behind the 200 feet away. That's all you got? I've seen so much worse than this last week. Like, so try harder, Islanders. Try harder to make me upset. But yeah, it's still, I woke up a sour. And then, of course, that Friday, the news cycle with the Canucks stuff just made me more mad. I'm like, I'm going to have to deal with this. Like, the Islanders just blew another game. And now I got to watch these crazy trade proposals come from all over the place. Like, not just fans, which you're fans by all means, but also people, in the media. And it's like, oh, God, I just, we're going to talk more about this later, but like, I just want to go back to watching the Islanders and wins and losses, and that's about it. I don't need to deal with this.
Right. And I love, and we'll move on to the Boston game after this, but I loved also when, like, the Islanders, this was a couple of games ago when they were all of a sudden giving up the first goal of the game in a bunch of games in a row. And Patrick Waugh was like, when we were blowing leads, you guys were asking about that. And now we're giving up the first goal and you ask about that. It's like, well, Patrick, maybe if you guys won some games and stopped doing these stupid things that are costing you games, maybe you wouldn't hear these questions. It's really surprising to me too, that nobody's really come after them for these special teams. Like, what are we doing?
We keep talking about it. Like, if this team was in a more, look what has happened to the Rangers, right?
Yeah.
The Rangers lost 2 games in a row, and that memo goes out, and all of a sudden they were in a crisis. And me and you were apoplectic because we're like, you guys lost 2 games. You can't even handle a 2-game losing streak.
Seriously.
In Alberta. Like, how are you supposed to handle something like what's going on with them now? And the answer is they can't. And we talked about this all last year as we watched this team almost win a Stanley Cup by every bounce imaginable. The hockey gods, it was like a 13-on-5 every time the Rangers stepped on the ice because they had all the ghosts of hockey past playing with them, and the refs and the goalie and everything. And we're like, this team hasn't had to deal with a shred of adversity since they sent out that letter 5 years ago, and we knew deep down in our souls that as soon as something went wrong with this team, they would shrivel up. And they didn't shrivel up, they imploded, and it's been great to watch. And my point being, if this was not, there's probably like 8 or 9 other teams where if they were posting historically bad special teams numbers, it wouldn't be a big deal. And then there'd be 20 other teams where writers would be tearing down the walls to get inside to take grainy footage from their cell phone and be like, they're working on the power play today at the Ford Performance Center. But the Islanders just don't have that. They have a hardworking group of media that follows them. It's just very small, and it's not, I guess the right way to put it would be like, they're not the most pressure forward types of sports writers, which is fine and normal. Like we don't have Steve Simmons there asking Patrick Waugh, why he turned down Team Canada. Once a year he comes around, sure, but that's it. And so they're just not going to get asked about it. It's almost like when you're like a student, or even if your parents, you're just at home with your parents and you've done something bad for a while and you're getting away with it because they just haven't noticed it. Like maybe you're cheating on your homework or cheating in a class, or you didn't read the summer reading book, and you're like, the teacher's like, did you read it? And you're like, yeah, of course I read. I read Lord of the Flies. Read it a couple times during the summer, definitely, and didn't. And then they're like, okay, well, the test is coming up on September 28th, so get ready for it. And September 21st comes around, just make sure you read it. And you're like, yeah, I read it. I'm totally good. And then the test comes and you're screwed. It feels like that a little bit with the Islanders. So like, just don't say anything. Don't mention that nobody's read this book, and we'll get away with it. And now some people have noticed, because it's really hard not to notice that this team is cooking. And the real sign, if people will pick it up, is that they were as bad on the penalty kill last year and somehow made the playoffs, and are now somehow getting worse. Like that's the real phenomenon that's going on here. All the while, the power play's gone in the tank too. So, I think that's why they're getting away with it. Right? There's just no real media. It's one thing if the same three people ask Patrick Waugh the same questions over and over again. And also, I will say, it always seems that the focus of Islanders media seems to be on, and I understand a lot of it is about like filling pages, but rather than focusing on that stuff, it's, oh, Pierre, did you see what you wanted out of Pierre Engvall tonight?
Yeah.
We've done this. Yeah, we've done this before. Oh, what do you think about Hudson Fasching's
Don't even get me started on that.
Yeah, we've done this already. Like, let's just, can we focus on the important stuff here?
How about Isaiah George? What do you think of his game tonight? He was good. Good. I thought he was really good. Okay, great. We've established that he's been pretty good. Like, no, 100%. No, it's really remarkable that it hasn't come up. Oh, sorry. I just realized what I wanted to mention before about ESPN, and then we'll move on to the Boston game. Bob Wischusen made the point that the penalty kill and the power play being so bad essentially means you are constantly playing down 1-0, even if you aren't actually 1-0 on the scoreboard.
Yes.
Because you're going to give up that goal and you're just not going to get it back on the power play. So you're constantly so you need to score more than that to compensate for that. And then hopefully, you're only giving up one goal, and I never thought of it that way. So thanks, Bob Wischusen. So having said all that, having talked about this now, these two games as, this sort of like, again, par for the course, just no fun at all. Just, the same anemic team doing the same stupid stuff over and over again. Now we come into Sunday's game, a game I was not particularly excited to watch. I'm sure you weren't either. And what happens? The Islanders walk out with a 5-4 overtime win. Again, they played really, really well. They went toe-to-toe with the Bruins, who had played the night before. They lost either in overtime or maybe in the third period to the Leafs the night before. And, it was a back and forth game. The Bruins took a lead, but then the Islanders made it 2-1. Lee and Horvat both had 2 goals. Horvat had a beautiful shorthanded goal with J.G. Pajot. Lee scored a couple of really, really nice goals. Ryan Pulock had 3 points. One of those goals looked like it could have been his, but they gave it to Lee instead because he was in front. And, maybe it was just playing against Jonas Korpisalo that helped them, but for whatever reason, the Islanders played really, really well. Of course, they took a 4-2 lead, like you said, in the third period on Lee. Second goal, nice pass from Ryan Pulock down low. But then, of course, the Bruins come right back. David Pastrnak scores twice, ties the game. They go to overtime. The Bruins have the puck for all of overtime. Basically, there was one shift where the Islanders had the puck, but then Matt Barzal fell, gave it right back to them. They went right back to work. Couldn't get anything going. Horvat stripped somebody. I want to say it was Marchand. Maybe I'm wrong. Comes in on a 2-zone breakaway and scores. Kind of sneaks it through Korpisalo's arm and in. And again, in a normal season, a season where the Islanders are, in a playoff berth, maybe jockeying for position. Maybe they're second or third in the division, something like that. This would be an exciting game. Yeah, hell yeah, get those 2 points. Real resilience. You blew the lead, but then you came back and won it. That's a pretty admirable stuff. And this season, all you can think of is, where was this 2 games ago, 20 games ago? Where was this team doing these things before? Like, why are we waiting until game 40 to put together an exciting, fun, really joyous win that doesn't feel like anything like that? Because we haven't seen any of that for 39 previous games. It's been, 2-1 losses because you gave up a power play goal in the third period or something. So in a vacuum, this was a fun game, but I was just agitated is a perfect word. It was done. And I don't want to say I was mad that they won, because that just makes me sound like an asshole, but like, I was just like agitated. Like you said, I was upset by it because I didn't know where this came from. And we're going to talk about the games coming up this week in a little bit on the other side. I have no confidence at all that they're going to play even almost like this in either Vegas or Utah coming up this week. So I don't know what to make of this team. And now they're talking about how, we've been playing well. It's good to finally get the results. Yeah, it's good to finally get the results, but like, we needed some results 39 games ago, 20 games ago, 15 games ago. Now I think it might be a little bit too late. So maybe it's that too. But I mean, as an aside though, this was a fun game in a vacuum. I kind of wish that, if all the games were like this and they came out on the winning end, I think it'd probably have been a pretty exciting season. But unfortunately, it hasn't been so far.
Exactly. As I said, like you celebrate, you're like excited, and then you realize with the situation that the Islanders are in the big picture, and it kind of just brings you back down to earth. And it also isn't lost on me that they blew a 2-goal third period lead.
Right.
Like we're talking about a joyous win here, and they still blew. Like, it's the second that they took that 2-goal lead, they're like, oh man, this is great. Like this is too good. We gotta.
They're also second to last in the division still. Like, they're 4 points out of the playoffs, but they're second to last in the division,
right?
Or in the conference. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And the Sabres are coming up. I think the Sabres are winning right now, so the Islanders are going to be like 2 points from the bottom of the division. And I mean, that was incredibly frustrating. And then the only thing I'll say, and like, they won, so I want to try not to be as negative about it as I could, but like, I think what you said is exactly what I was thinking the whole time was, man, if you had just done this 4 other times this season, 4 out of 39 other times this season, rather than do what you did against, Detroit or whoever, like, we're in a completely different situation here. We're talking about the Islanders in the mix, and those thoughts really drive you nuts as a fan, because you can't do anything about it now, and you can't cry over spilled milk. I will say though, as soon as the game ended and I saw how the scoreboard was shaking out, and I will say one thing to one Twitter account that's absolutely worth following in times like these is the Isles Magic Number account, who does great work of just sizing up the situation from game 1 to game 82 of the season about the Islanders' tragic and magic numbers. And I took a peek at it as soon as that game ended, and I saw where the Islanders were at, and I was like, like, they're still alive here. And they are. Like, they're still alive. Their magic number is 89 and their tragic number is 81. Not a great spot at all, but there's still runway left. And there was one point last year where the tragic number was like 12 and the Islanders' magic number is 26, and they still managed to get in the playoffs. So weird stuff can happen. And you look around the Eastern Conference playoff race, the Canadians have won, like we said, 5 of 6 they're playing right now. I think they're down 3-2 to the Canucks going into the third, but they're 7-3 over their last 10, and that was enough to take a team that was in last place in the conference for basically the entire season so far and put them right in the playoff mix. The Penguins, who we've made fun of all year, they're currently holding on to the wild card spot. Right before them, it was the Senators, who now have lost Linus Ullmark for a while, so they're going to go back to goalie hell. But the Senators, so discounting the Lightning and the Bruins right now, I think the Lightning are actually a threat to like win the East. They're really good this year, but discounting the Lightning and Bruins right now, the Senators are technically by points percentage leading the wild card race. They're 2 games above 500. and not including tonight's results. The Penguins, the Blue Jackets, the Canadiens are all 500. The Red Wings and the Flyers are both a game under 500. The Rangers are 2, and we're 3. So technically, like, the Islanders are 5 games back of the wild card spot with 42 to go. It's really not that bad. It's not that. I shouldn't say that. It is bad. It's not. It's not hopeless. It's not that hopeless. But as you said, you cannot. You do know who this team is. You said you don't know who it is. You do know who this team is. This team isn't the team that doesn't win 2 games in a row. This is the team that loses, that wins 1 game a week, as you always say, right? So they've won their game this week, and that's who they have to be until they prove to us otherwise. So yeah, the Bruins game was great. It was fun. I thought the players played really well. The one I do have a super specific prediction to make for the second half that I'll make right here at the end of this little screed. But yeah, so it was a good win. It was great, but they have to now do that over the next 10 games, like 7 more times out of the next 10. And then we can stop talking about Elias Pettersson or whatever, and we can talk about stuff that actually matters with this team again. But I just don't trust that we're going to get to that point. Yeah. And the prediction, so Hudson Fasching was hurt with like 10 minutes left in that game on the 4th line. He's been not that great this season, but he gets hurt, and I am almost positive that by the end of this week, Oliver Wahlstrom will be back with the Islanders. I think. I mean, the Bruins are going to waive him. He's not playing that well. He took that offsides yesterday that I was like, oh, there's Wally.
I was weirdly comforted by the fact that he was totally invisible for the Bruins, except for that one shot on. Again, he's Wally one shift, right? He had that one good shift, and that was it. He was done. Yep. So he's continued his ways with the Bruins.
He spoiled the 2-on-1. Maybe he was playing for the Islanders still. He knew he knew that the Islanders were going to reclaim him. But yeah, so he'll the Bruins will waive him, I'm sure, pretty soon here. Yeah. And when they waive him, when other teams will notice, it didn't work out with the Bruins. They cut bait with him after 5 games or whatever. So we're not going to claim him. But the Islanders, who will be high up on the waiver claim, if nobody else puts in a claim, then they can send him down to the minors. So there is like a benefit to reclaiming players on waivers. I'm telling you right now, with Fasching hurt, get ready for Oliver Wahlstrom, baby. He's back. He's finally going to get his chance. He's finally going to get his chance.
Yeah.
Give the kid a chance.
And he's gonna bring whatever he learned from the Bruins organization with him back to the island. So, I mean, I could see it happening again because Fasching is hurt, which it would be a scathing indictment of literally every single person in Bridgeport, who, by the way, as you pointed out to me today in our group chat, have 1 home win this season. Do the Bridgeport Islanders. One win at home this season. So if you are a Bridgeport Sound Tigers, a Bridgeport Islanders season ticket holder, and we know one, Rat Martin of the Skates of the Stakes podcast, you should get your money back. You need to talk to your ticket rep and be like, you got to give me my money back because this is not a good return on investment. But in any event, I'll see. I don't know. I mean, Fasching gets hurt. The Islanders schedule is really weird, man. They got 3 days off before, playing in Vegas. So maybe Fasching is back, but yeah, by Friday, maybe by the time we talk next Sunday, Oliver Wahlstrom might be back. I can totally see it happening. So we'll see. But yeah, his, we were all joking. I'm sure other people joke too that, oh, here comes the Wally hat trick against the Islanders for the Bruins. But yeah, no, we didn't have to worry about that.
That game not getting to a shootout was a godsend because you absolutely know that he was going to score the shootout winner if it got there. And yeah, that overtime was just, I was watching it, and you're watching the Bruins just dominate. The Islanders don't touch the puck, and they got to a point where we're like a minute and a half in, and I'm thinking, man, if this was the Islanders doing this to another team, I would turn this game off because I know exactly what's going to happen. There's going to be a broken stick or a bad bounce, and the other team will get the breakaway and score. And it was nice to see the Islanders get that luck for once. So yeah, I mean, yes, good job winning the game to the Islanders. That's what you're supposed to do. You've lost the privilege of us believing in you after just 1. It gets a little bit easier to do after 2, but come talk to us after, hey, first 3-game winning streak of the season, maybe go into Vegas, go into Utah, take care of business, get to just a game below 500.
Hmm.
And then we can talk. But yeah, the Islanders are they're not going to do that, so we
Right.
can just get ready to get mad again on
Right.
on Sunday. And then they come. Wait, did we say that then they come home for? You were talking about the schedule.
Yeah.
They play this, and then they're home for 7 games in a row.
Right.
So we've talked so much about how this team, like, we can see 2 weeks into the future, but professional athletes are trained to just have blinders on, and you forget what just happened, and you only focus on the next shift, and you don't think down the road. But God, look at the schedule coming your way if you can find a way to make some hay on this little 2-game two-step out there in the West. Like, go to the desert, win 2 games, and you come home. You got the Senators, Flyers, Sharks, Blue Jackets, Flyers at home. You like you want your season is on the line. Yeah. It's on the line, but it won't matter if you don't come back from the desert with 3 points or so.
Right.
Two at a minimum. But I'm only saying that because I know that they're going to lose to Vegas on Thursday, and I want to have like in the back of my head give myself a little bit of stakes. But you can come home and really, really make a run out of something. Yeah. You have one last chance. You have one last chance to do it.
Yeah. They play the Flyers 3 times in the span of 3 weeks. And no offense to the Flyers, who are right where the Islanders are, but like, you could beat that team 3 times in the span of 3 weeks, right? And again, the Senators, Sharks, Blue Jackets, right?
I mean,
they've already beaten the Hurricanes at home, who are also on that list. And then just before the 4 Nations thing, you got Tampa, Florida, the Tampa, Florida 2-step thing, and then Vegas again, and then Winnipeg and Minnesota. Yeah. That's pretty hard.
That gets hard, right? That's what I'm saying. So like, go win these games that are easy, and then we can have a conversation where for the first time this season we're looking at a 5-game stretch. We're like, man, if the Islanders win 2 out of 5 here and keep their head above water, go into the stupid international tournament, like there was still in it, we all would have signed up for this back on Christmas, right? Like, we would have bit your hand off just to be in the playoff race. But this team has shown us no reason to believe that they will recognize and take advantage of the opportunity that is now presenting itself in front of them. So, congrats to the Vegas Golden Knights and Utah Hockey Club for their upcoming wins.
All right, well, why don't we stop there? We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about those games. And then we will discuss the state of hockey media in 2025. Spoiler alert, it's not good. But come back on the other side, and we'll talk about it then. All right, thanks. And now, a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
This episode is brought to you by Unstoppable. Discover the inspiring true story about Anthony Robles, who defied every expectation to become a national wrestling champion in Unstoppable, a new original movie from Amazon MGM Studios and director William Goldenberg, evoking the excitement and camaraderie of classic sports dramas and thrilling wrestling matches. Unstoppable features an all-star ensemble cast, including Jarrell Jerome, Jennifer Lopez, Don Cheadle, Michael Pena, and Bobby Cannavale. Unstoppable is streaming exclusively on Prime Video January 16th.
So, as we mentioned before, the Islanders have 2 games coming up this week. Thursday, they are in Vegas to take on the Golden Knights. That's a 10 o'clock local start on the East Coast. And then Saturday, they are in Utah for the first time. That's a 9 o'clock start. Then they're off again. They don't play again until they're home on Tuesday against Ottawa. So, theoretically, this was a 3-game. In reality, this is a 3-game road trip, Boston, Vegas, Utah. But there's a 3-day break. And like you said, I mean, to win even one of these games and then come home to a stretch of 7 straight home games against some beatable teams would set you up pretty nicely. Do I think they're going to win either of these games? No, I think their best bet is probably against Utah. Vegas has been very, very, very good. They're arguably the best team in the league this year. And at home, I don't anticipate the Islanders doing much. And then you never know. They play maybe the Islanders can flip the script once and beat a team their first trip to their arena, as opposed to that team always beating the Islanders at their first trip to UBS Arena. It seems. We've talked about it. We don't need to get too far into it, but I mean, what do you see from these two games? I mean, and not to slouch on Utah either, because they've been pretty good this season too. But boy, Vegas is really up there. And I mean, Jack Eichel right now is like a Hart Trophy candidate, and this is going to be a really, really hard game for the Islanders to win. But they've had 3 days off, so maybe they're fresh. Who knows?
Yeah, and like we're as we were just saying, like you're at the point now where it doesn't matter who the opponent is. It's you got to just find a way to win games, and hopefully they're able to play one of their better games. I think they've done all right against the Golden Knights in seasons past too. Sure. And if they win, if they can find a way to eke out a win, and you know what, I'll even say eke out a point out of Vegas and get into Utah, like fine. But you gotta come back from this trip with 3 points. Like if you want us to be talking about the upcoming 7-game homestand with some sort of vigor and be like, all right, this is the chance. This is it. Last chance saloon for the Islanders. And there was a situation like this last year, looking back at like their game log, where they had I don't know if it was like a long homestand, but I just remember the schedule opened up for them, and they did take advantage of it. They had like a pretty it was right after, it was like a month into the Patrick Waugh experience, and the Islanders ended up losing to the Lightning, and we've talked about it, right? Then they beat the Stars, and then the schedule got a lot eeasier from there with games against like the Red Wings, the Blues, the Sharks, the Ducks, and they win them all. But then they followed that up with a 7-game or 6-game losing streak. Right. And so, yeah, go ahead and win a few in a row, and the schedule opens up. You have another chance to make hay like that. And they actually did it again later in the year when they played another soft portion of the schedule against the Flyers, Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, Predators, Canadians, and Rangers. Like they went out and just took care of business. But this team just doesn't take care of business. Like that's really it, right? Like it's just like, so I don't.
What is the opposite of taking care of business? Like
I was just trying to think of it. I don't know. I couldn't. That's what they do. They don't. They show up and they do the opposite of taking care of business. They they knock on the door. The door like swings open at the Wild West Saloon, and they just get popped by Wild Bill or something,
or they just call in sick. I guess I don't know. That's what
they call it sick without any more sick time. It's just whatever it is. They do the opposite of taking care of business. But I'll be rooting for them to take care of business, because we're that's what we're here for. I just don't have confidence that they'll do it. No. So I don't know, but at least there's a couple of days off before we even have to deal with it.
Yeah. That's a good thing. And again, this schedule, for a while they played basically every other day and lost, twice a week. And now they're getting to a point where it's pretty straight. There's a lot of gaps in between games. And again, we got the long break coming up for the Four Nations face off. And then even after that, their March and April schedules aren't really all that compacted. They don't have a ton of like back-to-backs and stuff. So this is the time. And I feel like, we're broken records. This is the time right now. If they want to make something of this season, it's got to be now. And so when we talk next Sunday, hopefully we have not completely blown that notion up. They've gotten some points out of this. Heck, if you get 3 points out of this, that's tremendous, right? That would be great. Let's say you lose in overtime or shoot out to Vegas and then win in Utah, that would be fine. And then again, you come home and you have a chance to really make a lot of hay. But this team, if you think that, if you look at this roster and what they've done so far this season, and you're like, yeah, they're really gonna make some time up with this stretch here. You're a better fan than I am, because I'm just looking at these guys and I'm like, yeah, there's somebody's gonna go into a slump. Brock Nelson hasn't scored in a month, by the way. He still hasn't scored since before Thanksgiving.
He made the Frozen face-off team, and
that was it. He's done.
Yeah, right. And I mean, he's not playing particularly well at all, Brock, but this is nothing new from our guy.
No.
Like he'll this one is pretty exaggerated even by his standards, but
Yeah.
he tends to look like the best player in the world for a week, and then all of a sudden goes quiet.
Right. I thought those
but
days
yeah,
were over though. Like
yeah,
he's
no,
been,
they're not. Yeah, he looks Brock is, I think it's because of his like glazy eyed look. Like when he looks disinterested, it looks really disinterested.
Right.
Yeah, I mean he's having a rough go. But hey, credit to where it's due though. We didn't really mention individual performances all that much. Scott Mayfield has been playing really well, I think, lately. He had a goal, right? One of the games.
The Leafs game. Yeah.
Leafs game. Yep. Yeah. He's been playing well, I think. And so has Anders Lee continues to play really, really well.
Yeah,
so
Lee's
like
been
it's
really, really good.
yeah, and it's frustrating that they lost Simon Holmstrom. I don't like Simon Holmstrom's a really good middle six winger for this team right now. But like losing him kind of hurts a lot more than it should for a normal team. But he was going well, and I like it's the Bo Horvat experience has been funny this season, where he's just completely snake bitten and scoring, but the man just works his goddamn tail off every game, and I really think he did deserve like the big moment yesterday, and so we'll see how this team kind of gels, and if more players can step up. Barzal seems to be getting his legs under him. We'll see if Oliver Wahlstrom 2.0 does come to fruition and finally gets his chance. But besides that, it does seem like individually, like some players are heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
It only took 40 something games, and Ryan Pulock was good the other night, but that was his first good game in
right
since they went to Venice. Like the hangover, he's finally done. He's finally shaken his hangover from the wedding of the century.
I would like to think that again in this little stretch coming up that maybe Barzal and Duclair, who again in fairness were hurt, finally find their legs and start scoring. But I know that if they do, that means that Lee and Horvat will go completely cold, right? Like, isn't that how it works? Like, oh, Nelson's scoring again. Oh, but Lee doesn't have a goal in 2 weeks. Or, oh, Barzell's scoring, but Bo can't, find the back of the net. So it's going to be something along those lines. But, again, now is the time to change the narrative, and at the end of the season, if they make the playoffs and maybe, do something, then we can be like, man, that first half of the season, they were terrible. But then they turn it on after the new year. It wouldn't be unusual to do that, but starts by having to do that. So we'll see. Unfortunately, Jonas Korpisalo doesn't play for any of these other teams. He only plays for the Bruins. So you got to find some goals against some other players. They seem to have solved the Korpisalo puzzle this season, but other goalies, not so much. Okay. So that's their upcoming game. So again, 10 o'clock Thursday and then 9 o'clock on Saturday. Okay. We've teased it enough. We wanted to talk about the state of hockey media in 2025. And this all started because of Saturday's headline segment from Hockey Night in Canada. I watched it. I usually watch it on Sundays. I kind of throw it on because I obviously don't watch the game, but I always go to Sportsnet and check it out. And it's, a 5-minute segment or whatever it is. And the first half of it was just about the Canucks and the Pedersen-Miller thing. Nothing new, just something about like, well, they might trade one of them. They might trade both of them. They might not trade either of them. And it's like, that's not really good information. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Also, who fucking cares? Like, I'm so tired of this. And I was thinking about it too. Like, okay, so this year it's all about Miller and Pedersen. Last year it was all about, last year was about, I think somebody, it was Demko. Was he hurt? And it was Svilov's thing. Then the year before it was, well, what are they going to do about Bo Horvat? What are they going to do with Bo Horvat? Then the year before it was Bruce Boudreau. Like the constant, like they were firing Bruce Boudreau over the course of 8 months. You remember that? We talked about that a lot.
Yep.
It's always something. And then Elliot Friedman has to make a big case about how I don't want to talk about the Canucks because people tell me not to talk about the Canucks. Okay, well then don't. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, then just don't do it. What's the point of telling us that maybe you trade one of these guys, maybe they trade both, maybe they don't trade either? That's not helping anybody. All you're doing is like stoking the flames. And then I forget what the other two stories were, but they weren't really much of, Jonathan Taves apparently might want to make a comeback, but because it was a GQ story and maybe he'll skate and figure something out at the end of the summer. Okay, well, again, that's not really helpful. And all I could think about was how, like, in right now, there's a couple of different sort of segments of hockey media that you can take it. There's a reason, here I am, slagging the guy, but like there's a reason why I still listen to the 32 Thoughts podcast, even though some days, like today, it makes my eyes roll back so far into my head that I feel like they're going to come out of my ears, right? It's just, today's was a real greatest hits. It was, Kyle, you're an Ottawa guy. I never judge others I only judge others as I judge myself. All it was missing, the in-season cup was brought up. David Amber and losing a bet to him was brought up. The only thing I was missing was I've had tough negotiations, and I think I mentioned in the NBA. Actually, I think I might have had it.
And of course, we can't rip players for being
right, yeah.
For being boring, and then get mad at them for being honest.
Right, which nobody has ever done ever. But
right.
the reason I still listen to this podcast, even though it drives me absolutely bonkers most of the time, is because it's really the only source of news, like that you can get for this league in sort of a wrap up form. Like they talk about who's doing things, but still, even then, you get all these little bits and pieces that drive you nuts. They only care about 7 teams, the ones north of the border. Somehow they find these people to send these questions in about asking about the dumbest rules and the most esoteric, never going to happen situations ever. And then those are the only questions that they ever answer on the stupid thought line. They spent 20 minutes talking about Frank Vetrano's contract and the deferred payments. By the way, Frank Saravalli today, I'll get to him in a second, at Daily Faceoff, he I guess he talked about this on his podcast. Frank took this contract as a personal insult. Like he was so angry about Frank Vetrano and his deferred payments. This is a really bad deal for the player. I don't understand. Dude, who cares? If Frank Vetrano is happy with it, what do you care? Anyway. And so you've got that. That's the best you can do. It's from Sportsnet, a company that only cares about 7 teams, does not include ours. And, maybe you get some news from there. Then you've got the sort of like the more kind of bro-y aspects of it. We've talked about What Chaos with Pete and DJ. Those guys are pretty good. But again, it's not newsy. They're kind of like hanging out on the couch and talking. And so, it's very chummy. And I wouldn't really go for them from news. I'm glad Merrick and Wyshynski versus Wyshynski is back at Jeff's new spot. I like their dynamic, but again, they're 2 buds talking and sometimes arguing about stuff. And then there's obviously Spit and Chicklets, which I'm sorry, I'm not going to listen to. I don't care. So it's like, that's not really helping me either. Like, I'm not really getting what I need from these sort of chummy hangout shows as well. And then you've got The Athletic or places like that, which should be a repository for all things NHL and isn't. Like, half the league isn't covered. They had a Stanley Cup champion that wasn't covered. They sent Michael Russo down there to cover the Panthers during their run, or whoever, or Mark Lazarus, one of those two. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But like, they used to have a guy covered the Panthers. Like he would kind of know what was going on there. And it's just, anyway, this long rambling just makes me think, I just don't get where we're supposed to get NHL news from. Like, I just want to know the basics. I want to know what teams are hot, what teams are cold, who's scoring a lot right now, who is slumping, who's hurt, who's this, who's that. That's all I need to know. I don't need sort of editorializing. I definitely don't need to know what 2 Canucks don't like each other, or what Leafs farmhand grew up, outside of Toronto at his dad, working at his dad's candy store or whatever. Like, I don't need that kind of stuff. I just want to know the basics. And I know this is like old man yelling at cloud stuff, but it just makes me die for NHL Tonight to come back. Like, I wish there was that. It's just highlights from every game. These are the guys who are hot. These aren't not, they go to Barry Melrose. Oh yeah, whatever. The Blackhawks are playing great right now. Thanks, Barry. Maybe there's a tiny bit of joking because some team lost, 7-2 or whatever, but that's it. And you get all your information and you go about your day and you feel informed. You feel up to date on the NHL. There's nothing like that now, at least as far as I know, right? I mean, I can't think of anything that's like that. And it just drives me nuts. Like, I just want to know about the league. I don't want to know about, just the Canucks and Leafs. I just don't get it. I don't understand. And I don't want to just hang out on the couch talking into a microphone. That's another thing too. Yeah, as I sit here in my office and talking into a microphone. So I don't know. What do you think? Like, am I missing something? Is there something out there that's like that for people like me, or is this just what we're stuck with right
now? No, I think the key point, the crux of your argument, is that you don't matter. Like, if you are a regular fan, and we're not, like, we're diehard fans, but right. But we're like the normal type of fan. We want to see our team win. We don't want to see your team lose. We don't want to see your team lose on purpose for draft picks and go through a spreadsheet and why losing now is better for the future, et cetera. That like we're kind of cut from that cloth. Like I think a couple of years ago we said like pretty simple when it comes to what we want out of life, in terms of like kind of side quests, which is like I want the Islanders to win and I want my favorite pizzerias to stay open, right? It's like that's the kind of fan that is totally just trampled over in not just hockey, it's just sports generally. Like it's not this isn't just a hockey problem. This is a sports problem that the ticket buying, jersey wearing, watch every game fan is the least important thing to basically every bit of the sports ecosystem, from the team to the media to the leagues to the networks. Like you're not the one that they want. They want the person that isn't going to show up to watch the Bruins game, even though he swore to his wife 100 times over the course of the day, I'm done with this team. I'm done. Like, no, they already got you. You're done. Like they've milked you, man. Like you're part of it. You're not getting off this ride. Team is not going to cater to you. League is not going to cater to you. Network is not going to cater to you. Who they are going to cater to, though, here's the problem. The person that they think they are catering to does not exist. They don't exist.
Right.
There's nobody, you can look out your window right now. There's nobody wandering around your street wearing a Knicks jersey, an Islanders jersey, a Mets jersey, a Yankees jersey, a Kansas City Chiefs jersey, and being like, I don't know which sport to watch. That person doesn't exist. Like there's, if we just show a funny clip of Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid eating McDonald's together in the penalty box, like that person's gonna rip off their Patrick Mahomes jersey and become a hockey fan.
How about that suit that Patrick Laine wore into the game today? Well, that's going to bring some fans.
How many fans are in our pocket now because of that one? No, that person doesn't exist, and that is the person that all these entities are gearing their coverage and their entire kind of business plan to. They don't exist. Like the fans who are like, yes, one out of 1,000 fans people will do it. It's a little hypocritical because like I've discovered sports late in life. Like I was up all night the past month and a half watching cricket as India and Australia are playing. But like I'm one person, like that's a very rare thing to happen. There's nobody out there thinking I'm going to take the Islanders for a test drive here and see if they do anything funny in the intermission. Maybe if Casey Cizikas tells me what his favorite pizzeria toppings are, I'm going to become a fan. Like that's not how these games grow. They grow by winning, basically. Like if your local team wins, more people will join. But there's been no greater kind of evidence of us not mattering than what's happened this week with MSG and Optimum. And the dispute that's going on right now with the team that plays at MSG and is owned by MSG can't be watched by people who had the cable company that used to be owned by MSG.
Yeah, like, this was the first confusing thing to me. Was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. How are they having a dispute with themselves? Optimum isn't owned by cable. Would you put it past Dolan though? Would you but like. That's just the first layer of it, and that's the easiest one for people to realize. And then now more people are going to download the Gotham Sports app, which has been working a little bit better lately. But last night told me that I was watching the game from outside the United States, so I couldn't watch the Islander game on my phone while I was giving Isla a bet. It's like this; it doesn't work. The app hasn't worked at all for if you. In the beginning of the season, especially if you just search Gotham Sports app, you got Sabres fans being like, this is unbelievable that this is happening. Like MSG Plus was working just fine. And then they did it. Like it was this whole thing. We talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago, that if you wanted to feel to know how little you matter as a fan, that is proof right there that not only are you blacked out on ESPN Plus, you're also going to be blacked out by your local network that you're supposed to watch the team on. And this is not, once again, an Islander specific problem. This happens like once a season to a team in a league. And it's happening not just the crazy part here, it's not just happening to the Islanders. Like the Rangers are involved in this. And we're talking about the New York Rangers here, man. Like the team that had 6 documentaries made about them last year. So you don't matter. You just don't matter as a sports fan. And the people who are
making content for these podcasts and writing about the NHL or writing about whatever league, they're not writing these stories and they're not recording podcasts for the most part for you. They're doing it for them and their buddies so that they can get a funny text from someone, or get a funny Slack message from at the Athletic being like, oh, great dig at, I love the dig you made at the Columbus Blue Jackets for that Seth Jones contract. Like, oh, you caught that one? Yeah, I put that in there for you. And that's the same as goes for the podcast, like you're talking about, like Elliot Friedman and Kyle Bukauskas. And I think like it was better with Jeff Marek. I will 100% I think people 100% almost agree with that. I just think Kyle Bukauskas knows he's there to just say to set Elliot up for the next bit, and he is doing the best Jeff Marek impression he can. He says the same things that Jeff does on the show. But what's happened is Elliot now knows I'm the star. Like Jeff isn't here. Jeff is
very much.
Right. So like this is the Elliot Friedman show, and now all we hear about is Elliot's makeup and his hair on Hockey Night, his suits. Oh, you saw that one, Kyle? Yeah, Elliot, I was working with you at Hockey Night in Canada. I saw that funny suit you were wearing. Hilarious stuff. And I would love to just sit down with these people and say, like, just ask them genuinely. You have to answer it. You have to answer it honestly. Who are you making this content for? Right. And if the answer is, I'm making it for Steve Mayer, the NHL's chief content officer, so be it. That's fine. Right. Like, at least you could be upfront about it. Like, but you're playing it off like hey, I got to tune into 32 Thoughts today to hear what's going on, and it's important in the league, especially during times where the Islanders are in a crisis, and you don't hear anything about it. And sure, part of that's product of the team, but at the same time, you give us what we're coming to you. Give us what we're coming to you for, rather than the same tired Paul Woody from Toy Story's pull string, right? Like we don't need it anymore. And as we always joke, who is the editor here? Like who is the producer? Dom or Am will be like, stop saying that. Can you just stop saying that? Emily just texted me from the other room like 10 minutes ago saying, you love to say the word apoplectic on your podcast. You should probably stop saying apoplectic. And I was like, oh, you're right. Like I should stop saying apoplectic, and I will try to. But has anyone ever said to these guys, hey, can you stop saying you've been in tough negotiations before? Yeah. It's so fucking annoying.
Well, like you said, I mean, who is this for? Like
not us. It's not for us. Yeah. You just got to, and you just got to go into it. Once again, we said this about, I think we said it, but it's our new bit amongst each other. And this is one that our friend Matt deserves credit for, which is that every time the words NHL Insider are introduced on a radio hit or a podcast hit or a TV hit, you're supposed to scrub that out and just say, here is professional liar, and then Chris Johnston. And when you do that, whatever comes out of Chris Johnston's mouth from then on, if you just imagine the host saying, okay, professional liar, Chris Johnston's here giving us the latest on the Rangers. Yep, the Rangers are considering trading Chris Kreider to the Columbus Blue Jackets. You're like, oh, it's a lie because he's a professional liar. So that now when you listen to this podcast, you could just say, welcome to the 32 Thoughts podcast. This is not for you. Right. And then you kind of shift the entire paradigm here, and you realize, okay, this isn't for me, so I can't get mad at it for not being for me because I am being upfront with myself. This is not for me. It's not for us. Right. Neither is the Winter Classic, by the way. Like the Winter Classic is for the media members who go, and if I had to see another video of somebody, oh man, look at Paul Bissonnette skating around on Wrigley Field. Like this is the content that we're supposed to be getting out of this? No, like this is supposed to be a celebration of the NHL. Think about 15 years ago, HBO 24/7 leading into the Winter Classics. And these were about teams we hated. The Rangers, the Penguins.
Leafs.
Leafs. We watched it because it was good. Yeah. Like that was the whole point. Like it was supposed to be like a kind of a climax part of the season. And now it's this. Like it's turned into this really kind of watered down version. And you can't say anything bad about it if you're in the media because you won't get invited next year when it's in Chicago again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. It'll definitely be in Chicago again. But yeah, the ratings for this year's were not good. The game itself was not good. I didn't even watch it.
Nobody knew what it was. I didn't know. I turned on the TV. I'm like, wait a minute. It's going on right now.
Yeah.
Like the Islanders played at 2.
Right.
So I was mad. I was like, I'm done with hockey for a couple of days. And then I was
Hmm.
like, I'll just peek in, see what's going on. I want to laugh. And I turned it on. It was like halfway through the third period. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. We watched Wicked because we watched the Wizard of Oz and then we watched Wicked because it was us and my mother-in-law. So like I didn't even bother to put. Normally I would have like put it on the computer just to have on, but this time it was no point. It's no, you're 100% right. None of this stuff is for us. I forgot to mention, by the way, that like the other part of the sort of hockey media equation is like the local guys. And again, we mentioned them before: Arthur Staple, Andrew Gross, and like all these people do a good job. And like Art is our friend, obviously. When he writes something about the Islanders, we read it. I would love to read Andrew Gross's stuff, but I'm not a Newsday subscriber, so I can't. Unfortunately, they have moved Larry Brooks' Slapshots column behind the paywall at the Post, so I can't read that either now, which really sucks. But that's like, again, we're getting information about our team, most of which we already kind of know for the most part. And I want stuff that's going on with the rest of the league. Like you mentioned, the Canadians winning before. I didn't even know that. I didn't. I literally had no idea that had won and were putting up. I knew the Penguins kind of were because they're in the division here. I just I didn't realize how good the Vegas was, and like I could look at the standings, but that's not going to tell you what's going on or who's hot right now, who's not. Like that's what I want. I don't want whatever it is that they're selling us.
Perfect example, right? You said it. Canadians. People finally started to like talk about them
right
a couple of nights ago, and I was like, Jesus, the Canadians are like, and they're a win tonight, they're in the wild card spot. Congratulations to them and their fans. That's awesome. We know a couple of Canadians fans. The alliance is strong, of course. We love you up there in Montreal. But we didn't know that, but you know what we did know, because we saw a lot about it. We knew that Joe Thornton was as Austin Matthews' mentor on the Maple Leafs annual mentor trip. Like,
that's right.
It's unfair to make this criticism, but I'm going to do it anyway because, like, obviously, Sportsnet, the bills are paid by the Leafs. Like, they own the Leafs.
Right.
That story is going to be written, and it's going to be written by probably the Jane Dickinson of the Emily Dickinson of Master Leafs leader, Luke Fox Jukebox. It's going to be written. It's going to have to be written. There's no way they can get around it being written, but I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And that's on me because I'm going to go to Sportsnet to look, but I'm going to go to Sportsnet and I'm going to look for news about the league and about whatever. And instead, I'm going to have to see Joe Thornton's stupid fucking beard and his arm hanging around Austin Matthews. Like, I don't know. And you're right. It is old man's. We are, but we also are. We're mid-age guys. Like that's just who we are too.
32 Thoughts was talking about a guy who plays for the Flames, I guess, who had his parents in attendance. I guess for maybe his first game in Toronto or something. I don't even remember what the heck it was. And all I could think of was, other guys have parents too. Like I don't understand why. Like, and I think his mom might be deaf. I'm not trying to like shit on the story or anything. But like, this happens 1,000 times a year, right? I mean, there's 700 players in the league. How many rookies play in the league? How many somebody's first game somewhere every single night? Like to point out just this one guy because he's playing in your market kind of does a disservice to anybody whose first game happened in Dallas or in Utah or in LA or whatever. Like, and so it's just I don't. Like in the context of a NHL Tonight type show where you're getting other information about the league, those kinds of little tidbits would be fun. But when you're focusing on that stuff as opposed to, hey, these guys can't buy a win right now. Or, hey, these guys are super hot right now. They're in a playoff spot. Oh, another thing that came up on the 32 Thoughts podcast. And, I know, again, I listen to the show every week, twice a week, and it drives me nuts. Like, John Gibson. Well, now that Linus Ullmark is hurt, do we think the Senators go for John Gibson? This is year 7 of the will John Gibson be traded discussion. Just trade the guy or don't. I don't understand. Why is this going on? Why are we still talking about this? You think the Senators are going to trade for this guy? No, he's making like $7 or $8 million a year.
You don't need to talk. They don't need to talk about it. And like it's the other part of this is these podcasts, especially the ones that are covering, the league as a big picture, which is really just 4 or 5 teams.
Hmm.
And they talk about the same thing over and over again. You get
Yes.
the Elliot Friedman podcast as like the most popular. Then it's the Chris Johnston type guys, whatever. And it's the same podcast over. They talk about the same thing. They give the same opinions. They all have the same sources over and over and over again. So it's like when you go onto Twitter at 2 p.m. every day and it's the waiver wire and everyone has to tweet out who got claimed on waivers. and they can't just look at one another and be like, I'm not doing the waiver stuff anymore.
Yeah.
You know what? Everyone's going to find out at 2:01 anyways. I don't need to be the guy to do this anymore, but they all do it because anyway. They're so far gone from like what really happens. There was that a tweet that Woj put out a couple weeks ago about Chris Mortensen's funeral. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
Yeah, it was basically about how he went to his funeral and like nobody from ESPN or sports media was really there, and how sad it was, and how that's why he retired from whatever he was doing, from being the NBA professional liar. And if that's unfair, I don't know. Like I don't know if he gets into like the rumor mongering or not, but you get the gist. And all these people in hockey media like quote tweeted it like, oh man, that's just wise words from Woj as always. I'm like, he's talking to you. He's talking about you.
Right. Yeah. It's just again, all of this is done at the expense of just straight up news. Like who won and who lost, and again, who's up and who's down. And
you said it. A Hockey Tonight show, that those Jeremy Shappy kind of pieces.
Yeah.
They live on those shows, but they're not, the entire show isn't Jeremy Shapp doing Jeremy Shapp things. It's here's what matters, here's the bullet points, here's Jeremy Shapp, and then let's wrap the show up with, this rookie is doing really well. Congratulations to this rookie. Yeah.
Or like a day in, following Austin Matthews around or something like that. That'd be fun, but we don't get that. And I should have mentioned, I mentioned Fred Saravalli before, but yeah, he's another one. It's just the same topics over and over again. It's him and just two other guys like sitting way, way too close to their webcams, talking about something, and it just goes on, and it's the same thing. And then, Frank makes some kind of hot take, and it's like, who is this serving? I don't understand. And as far as, you talked about it before, you want to talk about the MSG Cablevision thing is really funny because I signed up for the Gotham Sports app as well because we wanted to get rid of DirecTV Stream. Long story short, the service was fine, but we weren't really using it as anything other than a Golden Girls, Seinfeld, Law and Order rerun machine. So I was like, we could save a lot of money if we just get rid of DirecTV and watch that stuff on the services we're already paying for, Peacock and Netflix and so on and so forth, and Hulu and so on and so forth. And so I signed up for the Gotham Sports app, and I had to do it from my phone because, and again, I live in New Jersey. When I did it from my computer, it would only let me sign up for either the Yankees and Nets package or the package with all of the teams, Yankees, Nets, Rangers, Devils, Island. And I'm like, I only want the Islanders. I don't really, it's better now. Maybe I'll watch some Devils games. I will definitely not watch the Rangers. I would most likely watch a Knicks game before a Rangers game. So I ended up having to sign up on my phone. Why it worked on my phone and not my computer, I don't know. But I was already like, boy, this is really off to a rousing start. Yeah. This app is really killing. And so, and it's funny to me because like they are kind of cutting their nose off despite their face. And as a friend of mine said on Blue Sky, when they got the email, like, don't let us lose your Islanders. You got to try and, pay or whatever. And they were like, you're definitely overestimating my interest in watching the Islanders, right. I'll just dump you guys too. Like, I don't really care if it means losing the Islanders, who gives a shit? So it's just now, it used to be at least we had our team, but now it's ironic that we're talking about this because we're in a sense, like right now you're in a spot where you might not even have that. So I sympathize with you if you're a Cablevision or Optimum subscriber and you don't have the Islanders right now. You don't want to fork over for Gotham Sports. I mean, I'm sorry that you're in this predicament. It sucks. I'm sure it'll get worked out eventually, but it's just like being a hockey fan is just, it's impossible. It's just really hard. Like, and especially like we have you and I think are intelligent people. We have an intelligent audience that is savvy and knows the game and knows the Islanders and is up on things and knows the NHL pretty well. All we want is just some information, man. Like, it's really not that hard. It shouldn't be that difficult to give us that, but apparently it is.
It's almost like when you get offered a service and you're like, okay, like you get the basic cable, but if you want to subscribe to cable plus, and you can get HGTV, and you can get this. That's how I feel like the NHL should be. It's like, hey, do you just want to be a normal fan that wants to watch the games and read about what's going on in the league? Then you get this basic package. But hey, if you want to see what kind of suits the Seattle Kraken are wearing tonight to celebrate Seattle Day over there, like, you can sign up for the plus, and you can get the behind the scenes access. And if you're into that stuff, by all means, go do it. I would gladly bypass it just to get the kind of, I don't want to call it bare bones, but the bare bones version of sports that we used to have. And as I keep saying, it's not just the NHL, right? Like, I don't watch the NFL anymore. I cut it out of my life. And it's been a decision that I really think went really well for me over the past 5 years or such, since I've stopped watching and paying attention or caring. But what I will do from time to time is watch old games on YouTube, or just condensed versions of old Giants games. And I would actually, if you want to kill 10 minutes, go watch a bunch of old games from this is when I grew up, watching. So from 2000 to 2015, let's say, and just watch the intro to those games. The CBS Fox intro, where they kind of sum up why this game is important in 90 seconds. And it's the Dolphins are playing the Jets. Zach Thomas is here. He's got one arm hanging out of his socket, but he's a gamer. He's bleeding from an eye, whatever. But the way that they serve up the game, it's very simple. They're the Jets are 8-4, and they need this win to maintain their 1-game lead over the Dolphins, who are fighting for a wild card berth with the Steelers. Jay Fiedler's been playing really well. Vinny Testaverde goes for the Jets. These two teams hate each other, and it's that. But now it's, oh man, look at this Travis Kelce guy. He's walking out on his hands. He's so funny. And we saw did you see the viral post that the receiver from the Denver Broncos posted the other day? Oh, he's going to have to pay for that one. It's completely different. It's just so different. And I know it's a generational thing, but my point is, I think if you were to ask any sports fan across any age, what would you rather? Be I just want that. I just want the sports.
Yeah.
I just want to watch the sports that I'm here sitting on the couch getting ready to watch. And I feel like the NHL for a long time almost resisted that, because they were the league that nobody cared about or watched. So it was hey, we're just going to give you the games.
Right.
And then we're going to give you the highlights, and we're going to give you the news, and that's it. Then we're going to turn the lights off. Everyone's going to go to work and be normal people. But now they look at the NBA and the NFL oh man, we should just be them too. We should just be the light beer version of these leagues, and it'll be great. It'll go gangbusters. Yeah. And it has, as you said, it just causes your eyes to go so far back into your head, and it is off-putting. It makes me want to consume less.
Right. It makes you agitated. Again, it makes us agitated. That's the theme of it. Another thing real quick. So again, Jeff Marek does this show, and I listen to it every once in a while. I'll watch it on YouTube, I guess, or I'm really listening to it. And on Fridays, he has Brian Burke on, and Burke can be a little bit much, but sometimes he's really funny. At one point, some guy was trying to get into the room he was in, and he's like, "Sir, what are you doing? We're having an interview here." He was getting really angry. But Jeff at one point asked him last Friday, he's like, the World Junior Championship is going on. Obviously, congrats to Team USA for winning their second consecutive gold. But he was like, what? It's obviously such a huge deal up here in Canada. What are American, what is the American sort of outlook on the World Junior Championship? How are Americans watching this tournament? And I'm literally sitting here on my desk as he says that. And I mean, I don't even know what Burke said, but I was just like, they're not, Jeff. They're not watching the World Junior Championship. Nobody gives a shit here. And I think Burke even said well, hockey fans are plugged in, but by and large, nobody here really knows what's even going on. And that reminds me that there isn't an entire NHL network that, as I have said many times on this show, I have never watched in my entire life. I have never owned a service that had NHL Network, and I've pretty much had them all. I've never once had NHL Network, and that seems to me would be the logical place to put an NHL Tonight type, recap show. They might even have one. Who the hell knows? Because nobody watches it, but it's because it's nowhere. It's never gonna be a thing, and you'd think that the league would want that again, but it's just the aspects are there. We're hockey fans. We love the sport. We want to watch as much as the Islanders drive us nuts. We want to watch the games. We want to watch old games. We want to watch new games. I would have watched the World Junior Championship if it was on the channel. How did people even watch it? I don't even know where was it. I didn't even know it was on TV. So I would have watched it, but I didn't know where it was. So it's like you said, it's behind a wall somewhere, behind a door, and we can't get to it. And it's infuriating as a fan. It's aggravating as a fan that we can't just access it. Like, I don't understand why it should be so hard to find out more about the league the only league that we care about. I mean, you care about cricket, you're a soccer fan, like that kind of stuff, but this is the only sport that I care about. I would really like a little bit more information that didn't involve having to hear about, a fight between two guys in a locker room. And, well, they could trade both of them or neither of them. Okay, well, that's great. Thanks. That's really helpful. So I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Do you have a final thought on the state of hockey media? If you skip this all, I wouldn't blame you at all.
No,
but
pure
bit
catharsis.
on headlines drove me nuts.
Yeah, and it's this, like, it's I've been crying out for somebody out there in sports media who covers sports media, a sports media member who covers sports media, which is a cottage industry that now exists in this day and age, to like hold the broadcasters and the rights holders, especially here stateside, to task.
Right.
And the fact that it hasn't happened, and we're now in year 4 of the ESPN deal, just tells you everything you need to know, right? Like, it's been a shame the way that the games are broadcast. Like, the fact that the audio and video didn't sync up in Stanley Cup final games wasn't really touched on. It just wasn't. And that just tells you that, like, yeah, there's people out there who would cover it back in the day and hold the league and the networks to task. Hell, if the NFL had an AFC championship game and the audio and video didn't work, it would be national news. Like, the president would speak on it, right? Like, it's a big deal, but because the NHL doesn't really exist in the mainstream, it never gets talked about. And because the people who are writing about it are also kind of beholden to the league and don't want to lose access, it doesn't get talked about. And that's the same with the Winter Classic. These people want to they cover it. They want to cover it when it comes to their city, so they can't say anything bad about it. They say, "Oh, it's a shame the game wasn't close, but the event just and I actually, now that you say it, Elliot Friedman every year after the Winter Classic says exactly what we've just been saying. So I would let him sum it up when he says it's not for you. He says when he's like, "Yep, the Winter Classic was another rousing success," and to the people that are complaining about it, just a reminder, like, it's not for you, it's for the people who are there, which is the media. Like, because it's it. That's what he's saying. It's not for you. It's for me and the boys, right? Like, this is our event,
which is not helpful. Like, it's not helpful.
Yes, yeah. And so you don't get a bad word written about it because nobody wants to piss off the powers that be. And it's a shame because it could be much better as it was, 15 years ago. But that is, sports probably has jumped the shark, and we just, you don't want to let go of something that you've devoted so much time. It's like that sunk cost fallacy. So we're here and we're stuck.
Yeah. I think that's a good summation of the state of hockey media in 2025. We're here and we're stuck. Yes. So there you go. Okay. We could wrap this up. Actually, no, sorry. Before we wrap this up, one other congratulations, not just to Team USA, but 2 Islanders legends being inducted into the IIHF International Hockey Federation Hall of Fame. Zdeno Chara and, of course, the great Franz Nielsen will be going in along with some guy named Henrik Lundqvist, who cares. And they will be joining Kenny Janssen, who went in last year, who I've been meaning to talk about this whole time, and we never have. But that's a lot of good Islanders representation in the IIHF Hall of Fame. We love Franz, especially. We love Chara too, but we love Franz especially. And I really hope that at his induction ceremony, he can find it within himself to smile, because I don't know if we've ever seen that from that man before. But that's got to feel pretty good for Franz Nielsen, the truly most underrated player of his generation, I think. A guy who toiled. Talk about a guy who toiled in obscurity. This man played fantastically for the Islanders for a long, long time and was the deadliest shootout man in the NHL. And I don't know if anybody really realized it. Chara obviously has got all the accolades you could possibly have, and more power to him. But man, seeing Nielsen there was really like, damn, that's awesome. Like, I'm happy for him. That's really cool. So hopefully we'll get some induction ceremony stuff coming up soon. But what'd you think of this IIHF Hall of Fame thing, including our friend Franz Nielsen, whose pants you own?
That's right. Yep. Whose pants I own.
That's a Hall of Fame pair of pants. That
I know. I'm trying to complete the set. I can't wait so I can. I've got the DPH, the Darren Quint signed Rick DiPietro signed Rick DiPietro catching glove. I've got the Franz Nielsen game used pants. I just got to get a couple more other things, and I'll become like that Megazord from the most pathetic Megazord in the history of Megazords.
You got the Aussie jersey now. You got the
yeah,
Oscar
yeah,
jersey.
yeah. But I gotta have somebody sweating in it
Ah,
to feel the power.
gotcha,
So yeah, I'll have to see. Maybe I can get my hand on a Nathan Lawson game used jersey or something. But yeah, I mean, anytime you see Franz Nielsen's face or her name, I just I get excited and happy, and so happy for Franz. Hope we see him more often around these parts. I know
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he still owns a house out east.
That's cool.
Somewhere in the in the Hamptons. So good on you, Franz, and congrats to him. Because as you said, most underrated player in the NHL at the time, a really good soldier and somebody who he should have. It's really a shame, man. He should have been an Islander forever, but
Yeah.
that was sad. So, but happy for him.
But he I think he will always be an Islander.
Yeah.
No offense to the Red Wings, but yeah, I think he's. I don't think people go into the AA, especially the IHF Hall of Fame, as anything. But I think if you're an American or Canadian fan and you look at this as this person going in, I think you'll probably picture him as an Islander. Of course, if you're a Danish hockey fan, he is your patron saint, right? I mean, of Danish hockey there, but and a pioneer at that. But either way, it was great, and we're happy for him. So that's awesome. Okay, now we can wrap it up. Reminder that we are on Patreon. Become a member at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Get ad-free episodes, bonus content, written posts, and a whole lot more. I put out an article of my 10-game thoughts. It's for patrons only right now, but it will go free for everybody to read on Thursday, and it's basically about how Sunday's game doesn't change a damn thing about the Islanders this season. So check it out for free on Thursday. Right now, it's for patrons only. But sign up at patreon.com for free to get our weekly release calendar and announcements and stuff. Patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. You can find us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave us a review where you can. We've got a couple over the break, and we really appreciate it. So let's get some more in there. Thank you. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music at Spotify and check out their new record, God Looks Out for Fools. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. We have a brand new episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast, coming out this week. It is a leave-off free episode. You were at your grandfather's birthday party that day, but it came out great. It's about a player I've wanted to talk about for a long time, and it's with a great guest who was quite surprised to hear from an Islanders podcast and asking him to come on, and you'll find out more when the episode drops later this week. But it's a great one, and I know there's no Mike, but definitely check it out. So that's later on this week. But Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Any final thoughts on the week that was, the very short week coming up, or anything else we've talked about here? We've covered a lot in this episode. We had a lot to get off our chests this first episode of 2025.
No, I don't really have anything on that. I do want to say a shout out. We did get a couple new reviews. It is my New Year's resolution for the podcast to remind people to leave reviews or sign up for the free Patreon when possible, because I never do it. And it is kind of important for the show profile, etc., all that. But we did get one. And I do want to read it because it's a bit of a surprise, and I was in a good way left speechless by from this review, and you'll see why when I read it. It is titled "I'm Not Even an Islanders Fan" from Sophie Ava. Is the user. 5 stars, thank you, Sophie Ava. And I quote, "I am a Penguins fan, but I tend to listen to podcasts about our upcoming opponents. Originally, I expected only to listen to Pens adjacent episodes, but Mike and Dan sucked me in, and I've listened to all their episodes over the last 2 years. I even, parentheses, sort of want the Islanders to do well for their sake." We've gotten some really nice reviews over the years, and I really appreciate them. They are touching, and they're a great stroke to the ego. It's going to be hard to beat this one.
Wow.
Considering how we feel about the Penguins, how we let it known on this podcast we feel about the Penguins, how we feel about the Penguins media, how we feel about the Penguins general manager. how we feel about the Penguins captain, which is apparently a war crime in hockey. How can you be a hockey fan and not like Sidney Crosby? So yeah, I don't know. This one really struck a chord with me, and I really appreciated it because I've often wondered if there was ever just like a random person out there, maybe from like just a different, who was maybe looking to like vacation in Hawaii or something, and like, oh, I got to listen to a podcast about Hawaii to make sure I know what to avoid, and like, oh, this is Islanders anxiety. Maybe it's about the Hawaiian Islands and what to not get into there, or it's a local podcast about the tough parts of being a Hawaiian, and they just stuck around. So I've always wondered that, and we do have a Penguins fan in our midst, but I will say you were always welcome here, Zofieva. I really appreciated the review, and long may you stay. I hope you enjoy this episode and every episode that you've listened to. So thanks for checking us out.
Yes, thank you. So where was that from? Was that from Apple, Spotify? Where was that from?
It was on Apple Podcast.
Wow.
Yep, on Tuesday.
That's fantastic.
So, yes, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
It is,
okay.
yeah.
Well, there you go. See, leave us a review. Hopefully it's as nice as Zofieva's one. That's really great. And you might get read on an episode. What better incentive is there than that? Only good reviews are going to get read here. They're not, well, unless it's a funny bad one, but don't leave us a bad one.
Yeah, the bad one that was just two very amateur fans complaining, which could have been the name of the show.
Definitely. But I feel like I like to think we've come a long way than being two amateur fans complaining. We're now two professional, semi-professional fans complaining.
Yes.
But no, that was really great, and that's a pretty high compliment that a fan of a different team, one that we don't particularly like very much, likes to hang around. But that's pretty cool. So we appreciate that, and hey, for that person, we are their Islanders update, I guess. So there you go. That works for me. But it'd be nice if we had some other NHL updates to get from the rest of the league. But thank you very much. Okay. And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week on Sunday to talk about how the Islanders fared out in Vegas and Utah. Until then, take care. I almost said keep the Islanders weird. You can keep them weird too. But we'll be back then, and we'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.